My name is Brett Harris, and I'm our Senior Strategic Accounts Manager here at Indiegogo, and alongside me is my colleague David Abramovich, who leads our Campaign Specialist team. And we're really excited to have you guys join us today. And today's session is an introduction to crowdfunding. And the purpose of today's session is to really give you a good holistic view of crowdfunding. What is it? What's the purpose? How can you successfully take advantage of it and utilize it for whatever your project or passion may be? And what are some key tips to running a successful campaign? And how can you interact and make an even more successful campaign on Indiegogo? You should be able to leave today's session feeling comfortable and confident with the concept of crowdfunding and Indiegogo, and hopefully it'll be a nice teaser for some of our other webinars that we do offer. So first, just to get started, who are we at Indiegogo? And some of you are probably familiar with us. Obviously, you found us here today, which we're really excited to have you. But at a high level, Indiegogo was created to help empower people to fund what matters to them. And as you can see here, we don't discriminate against projects. We want to help people, empower them to fund anything that they're passionate about, whether it's community projects, nonprofit, technology, gadgets, anything that anyone has a passion for. We want to provide the platform that will help break down the traditional barriers of seeking funding and gaining enthusiasm from your community. So what does that look like from, again, a historical and holistic perspective? So just some background information on Indiegogo. We've been around since 2008, and we process millions of dollars every single month. And it's a little known fact that we actually are the largest global crowdfunding provider. And some of the reasons that we've gotten to this point, number one is that we are open. So again, people have campaigns for a variety of subjects and topics, and they have them all over the world. We are global. We've processed campaigns throughout every single country on Earth, almost every single country, as long as there's no sanctions or anything else against them. And we've also had transactions processed in nearly every single country as well. The other thing that really sets us apart is the fact that we are an equal opportunity platform. And I think this is one of the keys that really sets us apart. And by equal opportunity, I mean there's no waiting, there's no curation for your project, there's no barriers to entry for starting a campaign. All projects are welcome, and all promotions are what we call merit-based. And we'll get into that a little bit later on when we talk about our GoGo factor, but it essentially means that all of you have an equal opportunity of being featured either on our homepage, in our newsletter, in our social media, and so forth. And next, I think our customer happiness team also helps set us apart. So things like our education webinars that we're running here today. We also have a fully trained customer happiness team that helps answer support questions, provide consultation, and they really are just there to help you be as successful as possible. And then additionally, we have a few other resources such as nonprofit resources and several other items as well. And we won't dive too much further into that, but just wanted to give you a little bit of background on who we are and what we're about. Okay, so let's get into the meat of today's presentation. So as you can see here, crowdfunding is not new. In fact, it's actually been around for hundreds of years, but rather the term crowdfunding is what's relatively new. And as you can see here, this is an example I love to talk about, and it's a little known fact that the Statue of Liberty actually utilized crowdfunding. So as you can see here, as all of you probably know, the Statue of Liberty was a gift to us from France, but when it came over, we actually didn't have a stand or the pedestal or that base that you see here to actually put it on. So we had this amazing statue, but we needed to construct something to elevate it and really showcase it in all of its glory. And at the time, we didn't have the money to do that. And so we actually went around, and the base was crowdfunded. And as you can see here, over $100,000 were raised with an average contribution of 89 cents per person. And they basically went to the community and asked for contributions and donations. And as a result, we were able to erect an amazing base of the statue that elevated it and gives you the Statue of Liberty that we know and love today. Some other examples, the infamous book To Kill a Mockingbird was actually crowdfunded. So again, the author went around to friends and family and tried to secure funds to help make that book happen. And there's plenty of other examples throughout history where crowdfunding has been in use. So really, what's the difference between the crowdfunding of then versus the crowdfunding of now. And as we all know, raising money isn't new. That's always been around. But what's new is the way that we raise money. And raising money now is so much more efficient and more effective and just more accessible. Anyone can do it, and it's all because of the internet. And the internet, social media, and the sharing culture, it's never been easier to find and connect and build relationships with like-minded people who share your passions. And again, now along with the internet and sites such as Indiegogo, making payments, processing payments, and continuing to connect with people above and beyond just the fundraising aspect also makes it a much more comprehensive and effective process. So let's talk about what is crowdfunding. Now, I know a lot of us probably have a preconceived notion of what we think crowdfunding is, and some of you may be right on target, and for others, this might be something that's relatively new for you. But essentially, at its core, crowdfunding is the pooling of funds from people who are passionate about a project or idea to help bring those ideas to life. That's it. It's really simple, but it's a really powerful thing. And as you can see here, one of the things that we like to really emphasize is that crowdfunding is all about shared enthusiasm. It's not just panhandling, as you can see here from our lovely image. It's really not just going out and begging people for money, but rather you're trying to share people the project or the passion that you have for a specific project, and you're trying to get them excited about it. And you're also trying to lift the curtains and really show them behind the scenes what you're doing and why you're passionate about it. And that's why they want to contribute. People want to make sure that you're successful, and they want to jump on board with that positivity and enthusiasm. And if you go into your campaigns with that in mind, and not just the fact that you're asking for money, you're going to be far more successful at the end of the day. So here are just a couple reasons why would you do crowdfunding. And the first and probably most obvious is to raise money. You want to get your business funded. You want to get your prototype to market. Crowdfunding is a fantastic way, obviously, to raise funds. But I would say equally important, outside of just raising money, is the opportunity to gain visibility. Word of mouth is the most authentic way to build interest in your project. And the internet has given us this opportunity to become viral and to really spread the word quickly and easily about our project. And next, crowdfunding enables you to gauge demand and mitigate risk. Traditionally, if you were trying to finance a prototype of your business or really to launch your business, your options were to go to a bank and get a loan, go to a VC group and give out half of your company in exchange for their money. And really, it was a lot of risk that you were taking to really try and see your passion through to the finish. Well, now crowdfunding gives you this opportunity to gauge the demand and really mitigate risk by essentially creating something that is very minimal in terms of your personal risk, both financially and from a time perspective. So being able to run a campaign will let you know if you have a good idea. It'll let you know if you're onto something and if there's a demand for it in the marketplace. And it'll also help you really iterate on that initial idea before you actually try and go and secure some of those more traditional funding from VCs or banks. And then lastly, crowdfunding is a fantastic way to help you connect with your audience. And connecting with your audience, again, is a really core part of crowdfunding. It's important that you know who your audience is, and crowdfunding is all about a personal interaction. Again, it's you pitching your story to the world and sharing your passion and your enthusiasm. And that's what's going to engage others to really commit to your campaign. One example that I like to talk about is the Satari Star accessory. So this is a contraption that was invented. It allows you to put your phone or your mobile device into this base, and it's mobile. So whenever you moved, it could track and follow your movements. It's a really fantastic concept, and you've probably seen quite a few since. Well, they initially went to seek funding from over 30 different venture capitalists and were turned down from all of them. And here they were sitting on this fantastic idea, but they really had no access to get their idea off the ground. So they decided to turn to crowdfunding. And they had a fairly modest goal. Their initial goal was $20,000, as you can see here. But what was so powerful about their campaign is that they were able to successfully not only raise money, but they also were able to get funding from over almost 300 people. And this really helped prove that A, there was a demand for their product, people were willing to pay the price that they had set out for it, and it really helped them tell a unique story. So they're actually able to go back to these VCs that had initially turned them down, show them this proof of concept, and they're actually then able to raise nearly $1 million from venture capital fund. So again, the money piece was certainly helpful and important here, but really it was this opportunity to create a marketing piece to help go back and really take their business to the next level. All right, so I'm going to turn things over to David here to talk about why people contribute.
Hello, everyone. So I'm going to talk really quickly about why people actually give money to crowdfunding campaigns. So there's actually a few reasons why people contribute to crowdfunding campaigns. First of which is passion. So people are excited about your project. So you have something that you're doing that's really interesting, and they're really excited about it. They want to be a part of it. They're super passionate. They want to get into it, and they want to be a part of it early. Another reason is through participation and pride. So a lot of people want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. They want to feel like they're really joining a community. I think this is something that's really important to think about when you're creating your campaign, is that you're building a community, and people are very excited to participate. And lastly, of course, one of the most obvious reasons people contribute is the perks. So you're offering an item that people want. They're really excited about it. They just want the item. So it's really important to keep all three of these factors in mind when you create your campaign, and to target each of these types of people. Which kinds of people are going to be passionate about what you're doing? Which kinds of people are going to want to participate in something larger than themselves? And which kinds of people are just going to want the thing that you have to offer if you have something? So if you can target all three of these markets with your campaign, you have a much greater chance of being successful. So one of the main things we talk about, and we've heard from successful campaigners over and over and over again, is that there's no such thing as preparing too much for your campaign. Most of our successful campaigners start planning their campaign 30, 40, 50 days before they even launch. This is really, really, really important. Getting all your ducks in a row in advance, making sure you're prepped for launch, making sure you have a plan moving forward, a schedule for every week of your campaign, making sure you have resources worked out for the life of your campaign. This is all super important. And the first couple of days of your campaign are going to be crucial. The reason is that you are responsible for generating the initial momentum behind the campaign. So what this means is you should expect to raise about 25 to 30% of your funds from your friends and family. And you should be able to try to raise that within the first few days of your campaign. It's really, really important to get that initial momentum going so that the rest of your campaign has a greater chance of success. And I'll talk a little bit about this moving forward. So what makes a good campaign? There are 4 pieces. Number 1 is having an engaging pitch, which includes the video, the written pitch itself. Number 2 is having an attainable goal, a goal that it looks like that it will be reached and that you have a good chance of reaching it. You want unique perks that people are excited about and want to tell their friends about. And most important thing is to have proactive communication throughout the life of the campaign. So I'll talk about all of these moving forward. So creating a great pitch. What makes a great pitch? So the most important thing you can do here is to browse our existing successful campaigns and check out why they're compelling. You see a campaign that's made a lot of money, take a look at it and think, why did this succeed? Why was this successful? What about this appeal for funds is really drawing me in or would draw somebody else in? So what you want to be is very, very transparent and honest about through your pitch. You want to have a very clear message of what you're doing, what your project is, what problem you're solving, why there's demand for what you're doing, and why you need the help of the crowd. You want to be extremely authentic. You want to be honest with exactly where your funds are going, and you want to tell a story. I cannot overemphasize this enough. It's very important to let yourself shine through your campaign, because people contribute to people and not to ideas. People want to connect with something, connect with you, and connect with your story. So storytelling is crucial. If you came up with this idea, how did you come up with it? Who are you? What have you done before in the past that's exciting? Why? How has this? How is this idea? How you gather your team together? All of this stuff is essential into conveying to show people that the story behind who you are and why you're passionate about what you're doing. So it's very, very important, again, to make it super personal and visual as well. You want to make your pitch as engaging as possible, so it's not just a whole bunch of text and paragraphs. You want to make sure to have some images thrown in there so that people have an easier way to digest what you're saying. So one of the key things of your pitch is having a video. A lot of people are a little bit afraid and a little shy of getting in front of the camera, and that's understandable, but it's something you just have to get over because it's very, very important for you to give a face to your campaign and to have people connect with another person. As you can see, campaigns with videos generally raise a lot more money than campaigns with just images. And the important thing to remember here is to keep it short and sweet. Having a talking head portion is really important so that people can connect with you, interspersed with some quicker cuts of other images of your product or your project. And to keep it under 3 minutes. You want to keep it very, very brief, and it doesn't have to be super, super professional. It can be pretty lo-fi, but as long as it gets the point across and it lets people connect with you, that's the most important thing. So I talked a little bit about this before in terms of building that initial momentum. So this ties in very well to something what we call the green bar effect. So this is very much about goal size. So you want to build that initial momentum, and one of the ways to help you do that is to set a conservative goal. So one of the main questions we hear is over and over again, what goal should I have? What goal should I have? This is one of the big questions of crowdfunding. My general answer is to always say have the most conservative goal you can while still being able to move your project forward and fulfill all your perks. Why is that? So the reason is that initial momentum. So if you're trying to raise 25 to 30% of your funds within the first few days from your own inner circle, it really benefits you to have a more conservative goal. As you can see here are two campaigns with the same amount of money raised and the same amount of time left, but the one on the right looks a lot more successful. The reason is what we call the green bar effect. So this campaign has a goal of $50,000 versus the one on the left with a goal of $150,000. The one on the right looks much more successful because that green bar is further. When people come to your campaign, strangers that don't know you yet, those are the people that are going to look at that green bar to judge whether it's a success or not. If they see that it's a little low, it's just starting out, they're going to say, oh, this is a cool idea, but maybe I'll come back later and check out how it's doing. This is not what you want. What you want is for them to be really excited about what you're doing. So you want to raise that first 20 to 30% to get that green bar moving, and therefore setting a conservative goal will help you with that. One other question I get all the time is, should I run one huge campaign, or is it possible for me to break my campaign up into smaller campaigns? So we've seen quite a bit of success especially with projects in film, for example, of breaking up campaigns into smaller chunks with more conservative goals each time. So for a film, it's pretty easy to break it up into production, post-production, getting to festivals, etc. And the key here is when you run your first campaign to be really transparent and honest that it is just a step in the process, and it's not so that when you come back and run a second one, people don't think, oh, I just gave this person money. Why do they need money again? You want to prepare them for that and let them know that this is just one piece in a process and that there will be future campaigns. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about perks. So perks are really important and crucial to the success of crowdfunding. Most of our successful campaigns offer 5 to 8 perks within a very wide variety of pricing. So what you want to do is offer something for everyone, from $5 or $10 for somebody just getting involved in the conversation. Something as you can provide something as simple as a thank you on your website. This doesn't cost you anything. It's very easy to do, and it lets people that are maybe a little bit interested get involved. And you want to have your perks range all the way up to even $1,000, $5,000. Something for businesses, something for some really unique experience that you can offer that no one else can match. Just so that you are aware, our most claimed perks are at the $25 level. So it's generally a really good level to have a perk at, and they should be super unique and creative. So with perks, the sky is really the limit. What you want is for people to come to your campaign and be really excited about what you're offering because they're getting something really early or they're getting something super unique they can't get anywhere else. So it's super, super important to keep that in mind. And keep in mind also that you can update your perks throughout the life of your campaign. So I would recommend saving a couple of them to add in the middle of your campaign to get people excited again. So here are some just general ideas of what perks should look like. Honestly, at this point, the best thing you can do is just browse on Indiegogo.com and look at successful campaigns and look at the perks that have been claimed a lot. So if you look for perks that have been claimed in the hundreds, thousands even, to see what people have gotten excited about and see if you can replicate that for your campaign.
One other suggestion I would have, we actually have a fantastic blog article about perks and perk pricing. So if you haven't signed up for our blog already, you can actually go and search through past posts pretty easily. Just go to Indiegogo.com, scroll to the bottom, there'll be a link for our blog. But there's a great article that talks about the price ranges you should have and some links to some good examples.
Great. Yeah, perks are super, super important. As I mentioned, $25 is the most popular perk price. Anything between the $20 and the $100 range are generally the ones that are most claimed. Communication. I mentioned this earlier, is a really crucial aspect of your campaign. Now, one mistake I see people make is that they spend all this time working really hard to set up a campaign, then they launch it, and they just kind of sit back and wait for the money to roll in. But that's really not how it works. Running a campaign is hard work, and it involves a lot of work throughout the life of the campaign to make sure that your audience is engaged and excited. One of the main ways to do this is to communicate a lot with your audience, especially as it grows. Within Indiegogo, you can send updates to all of your funders, and we recommend using this often. 1 to 2 updates a week is generally the recommended amount because you want to keep these people engaged. What you don't want is someone to just contribute and forget about your campaign. You want to have them share it. You want to have them be excited about it. So it's really important to send lots of updates. And so what should you update about? So this can be celebrating milestones. Hey, we've hit like half of our goal. Thank you guys so much. If you could share it and get us the rest of the way, that would be great. One really great thing to update about is actually new media that you have. So if you have any extra video, extra images, these are great things to throw up in the middle of the campaign just because folks will get excited about it again, and that's something that's eminently very shareable. Also, as I mentioned earlier, new perks. Including new perks in your campaign can get the excitement going once more, and it's really, really effective. So sending updates about those can be really, really important. But either way, it's make sure that you understand that you're not just collecting funds, you're building an audience, and these are super engaged people. And one other way to really get people excited is to ask them questions. Have them give you feedback on whatever you're doing. You have basically access to a giant focus group that's really excited about what you're doing. These are the people that you want to, this is your target audience. This is the people whose opinions you need. And in reverse, if you ask them questions, these people will love it. People love that. Usually they're used to kind of like consumer producer relationship that's very one-sided. So when you really involve them, they get really, really excited. And if they're really excited, the project becomes their project. It's not just your project that they've funded, it's their project too. And they will tell everyone they know about it because it's their project also. And this is the kind of people you want to nurture and you want to make sure that to create within the life of your campaign.
Yeah, and just to add to that point too, although we say, it's work, it's also a lot of fun. I think we've talked to a lot of campaign owners that this is the exciting part. You put in the work beforehand to really craft a good campaign. And when you launch, that's when things start to take off. You start getting feedback, you start getting amazing comments, and you really start to learn more about your project, and it starts to take a life of its own. So we certainly don't want to intimidate you in the sense that we say it's work. Because it is a lot of fun, and I think for a lot of people, if this is not your day job, which I'd say for the majority of us it wouldn't be, but it becomes your passion, and it's a lot of fun. So next, this slide we always like to show, it really just kind of emphasizes the typical cycle of a crowdfunding campaign. And a lot of you are probably familiar with this already, but as you can see here, campaigns tend to be very active when you first launch, and then they pick up activity again right towards the end of the campaign. And so there's tends to be this somewhat of a lull throughout the middle of the campaign. And as much as possible, it's important to try and avoid this lull. And you can do that through updates, through unique content, through engaging new audiences to really try and keep that activity level constant and high throughout the life of your campaign. And by doing so, that'll help ensure the overall success. But again, if you do experience this kind of ups and then a little bit of a drop and then an up again towards the end, it's very normal. So now let's talk about how can you leverage some key data and information from Indiegogo to also help run your campaign. As you can see here, we give you access to an analytics dashboard on the back end. And what that dashboard does is it provides you with unique statistics and insights about the people who are funding your project. And this really helps enable you to pinpoint your best funders, maybe your best referrers, and to thank them. Again, as you can see, we have an example of someone who just put a Facebook post up that just thanked an individual donor for their contribution. And as David mentioned, it's really amazing how far that will go when you give out that personal recognition or you engage your audience. Again, people are used to purchasing a product or donating to a cause and not really having any sort of relationship with the people that are behind the scenes. And so this really helps you make that connection and create that relationship. So again, the dashboard is a fantastic way to gain some helpful insights to really help maximize the efforts in your campaign. So lastly, as we start to wrap things up, we had mentioned earlier that Indiegogo is one of the only merit-based platforms on the market. And what this means is that everyone has an equal opportunity of being featured. And we do that through what we call our GoGo factor. And you can think of the GoGo factor as something similar to Google's PageRank algorithm. So it's a proprietary algorithm that helps determine the activity level and the overall response of the crowd of a campaign. So even though you may be a small one-person show, or maybe it's a couple of you on a team and you don't have a huge budget, you don't have a highly produced video, none of that really matters on Indiegogo. But if you are able to still create a very engaging campaign, you're very proactive in promoting that campaign, and you get a fantastic response from the crowd, you'll have an opportunity to be featured on either our blog, our homepage, our newsletter, and our search rankings as well. And every campaign is basically ranked based on their GoGo factor, and that's how we determine those spots. So again, it's a fantastic way to level that playing field for folks. And you'll receive weekly updates about whether your GoGo factor is up or down. And so, again, it's just something to keep in mind. So, again, if you have additional questions beyond today's session, hopefully this was a good introduction to crowdfunding and gave you a good feel for what crowdfunding is about and how you can actively engage in it. But again, if you have additional questions, I definitely recommend checking out our blog. We're constantly posting insights and tips. We have over 120,000 campaigns that have run on Indiegogo, and we have a team of data scientists that are actively pulling information and statistics on what's the best time frame for running a campaign, what are the best perk pricing options. All of those key statistics we typically post on insights on our blog. And then as David mentioned, definitely go to Indiegogo and just browse through the successful campaigns. That's probably the best way to see what's working, what's unique, and what you can possibly add to your campaign. If you still have questions beyond today's session and beyond the blog and Indiegogo, you can definitely go to Indiegogo and check out our help center. It's a fantastic knowledge base where you can just start typing in any question you have, whether it's advice on how to run a successful campaign, to tips on payment processing and so forth. You can search for any of those things, and odds are we have a help article for it. I think we have over 90 help articles in there, and it's just a very easy to use, very quick search results engine. And then lastly, of course, our customer happiness team, you can reach them at support@indiegogo.com, and their team is ready and waiting for all of your questions. And then I also recommend checking out some of our other webinars as well. We actually have a Marketing 101, which talks about the basics of marketing your campaign. And we also have a top 5 common rookie mistakes. And then we're also adding in vertical specific webinars as well. So if you're in the film industry, if you're in the educational industry, small business, technology, hardware, we're constantly adding to those. And we actually have specialists here at Indiegogo that specialize in each of those fields that run those those webinars. And you'll receive a confirmation email after today's session with a link to where you can find those on our website. So thank you so much for your time. We're excited that you were able to join us. It looks like we're right on time here, about 2 minutes over. So we're going to go ahead and open things up here for a little Q&A. So if you do have questions, please feel free to type them into the chat box or the Q&A, and we'll go ahead and take your questions. You can also tweet at us at #GoGoLearn. And if you are going to jump off, thanks again for attending. So let's go ahead and open things up here. So one question we got, what is the ideal time frame for running a campaign? And this is a good question. We get this quite a bit. So our studies have shown across all of our campaigns that the majority of successful campaigns run on average for about 40 days. Now this is give or take 10 or so days, and depending on your campaign, it can certainly vary, but on average, the successful time frame for a campaign is 40 days. And that really helps make it short enough that there's a tangible end in sight, so people want to know when it's coming to an end and when they can get their perks. But it's also long enough to gain that initial momentum and then hopefully engage the wider audience as well.
We have a question from Yvonne. Ask about her specific campaign, which is threefold: to raise tuition, a video documentary, as well as an interactive portion for our audience to contribute, and to finish publication of a book. So she asked, is this too much? So that depends. Honestly, I would say instinctively it might be worth it to try to run a campaign for one of those pieces at one time, just to get your feet wet. This ties into the running smaller campaigns instead of running one larger one. It also it will benefit you in that when you first run a campaign, you will learn so much about crowdfunding, and you learn so much about what works and what doesn't, that when you run your second campaign, you will know a lot more and you will do a lot better job. So I'd say I would recommend actually picking out one of those pieces and crowdfunding just for that. Just keep in mind to make sure to let your funders know that it is just one part of a larger project. So be very transparent about what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish overall.
So a question from Carol, and she asked, is it necessary to create a nonprofit to launch a campaign? And so the answer is no. Anyone can start a campaign, but I wanted to take that a step further and let you know, if you are raising funds for a cause and you want to push those funds to a nonprofit, we actually have tools that will enable you to do so. So we have a partnership with a company called First Giving, and they basically enable you to pass all of the funds that you raise directly through to a nonprofit organization. This is great because it allows you to take tax-deductible contributions. So anyone that donates to your campaign can write that off on their taxes. And it's also a great way to add transparency to your campaign. So rather than raising funds for the Red Cross, for example, and having them go directly to yourself, people might question that. Whereas when you work through us, you can actually link directly to the Red Cross, and people will know that funds will go directly to that organization. And you can tell that through our verified nonprofit badge. So if you go to Indiegogo.com and you see any campaigns that have that green shield and it says verified nonprofit, you know for a fact that those funds are going directly to where they say they are. And a good example of this, there's actually been quite a few campaigns that have sprung up over the last couple days to help support disaster relief efforts in Oklahoma. And so if you haven't, definitely go check some of those out. There's some really good campaigns. Some of them are raising for the Red Cross. Some of them are raising for local relief organizations. And it's a really great method to help impact the world. So fantastic question. And we had another question from Robert, and he asks, my project could be put under several different categories on Indiegogo. Do you have any tips on which one I should do? And I get this question quite a bit, and it's really hard to provide a specific answer, but what I can say is, go check out the different categories and see what types of projects are being listed in those categories, and see if that's the type of audience that fits you and your campaign the best. Look at the people that are funding these projects, look at the most successful types of projects, and if that is the environment that you want to associate your project with, definitely go for it. But at the end of the day, a lot of the traffic that will be driven to your campaign is going to be derived through your own promotional efforts, and then through the promotional efforts and the virality of people spreading and sharing your campaign. So there certainly will be quite a few people that come to the site and visit certain categories. But again, it's just a matter of you getting a feel for which category you like the best.
So we have another question from Carol, who asks that we're contemplating a campaign for an event that we hope to have the week before Labor Day. Are we starting too late? This is a great question. So most campaigns we found most successful campaigns run for about 40 days, which is long enough for you to get the word out, but not so long that you lose all momentum that you build at the beginning. So what you want to figure out is when you want your campaign to run, that it will, depending on the funding option you choose, you'll be receiving your funds 10 to 15 days after the campaign is over. So make sure to build in enough time there. But I think honestly you have plenty of time. You have quite a few months of lead time, and you'll have about a month of prep, a little over a month of running the campaign, and then some time to actually organize the event. That should be plenty. One more question from Beth. Is it possible to run more than one campaign at a time? Say there are two unrelated projects with similar timelines, or is one at a time allowed? So it is definitely possible to run more than one campaign at a time, but it's for sure something I would not recommend. The reason for this is that you do not want to dilute your efforts and to give your audience kind of a mixed message as to which campaign they should go to contribute. What you want to have very clearly is very, very clear, very focused message that tells people there's one thing you need to do. There's one call to action. Is here, check out what I'm doing, and go here to either share or contribute. That's it. You want to be as clear as possible so that people don't get confused or distracted.
So we had another question from Natasha about, is there a way to have multiple videos on the page of your campaign? And the question is yes. There's the main pitch video. There's only room for one main pitch video, but underneath in the pitch text, you can actually post as many photos or videos as you like. So you can definitely post multiple pieces there. And we also have a gallery as well. It's an additional tab on your campaign that allows you to upload different media types, whether they're images, videos, documents, etc., that you can share with folks. So that's a great question.
A question from Joseph, asking about 501c4s. He wants to start a 501c4 to provide a service via applications. Would it be best to market the campaign for the cause or for the product we will provide? Also, do 501c4 nonprofits receive the same benefits for what 501c3s? I'll actually start with that portion. Currently, we only provide the tax-deductible benefits to 501c3 nonprofits, so it's something good to keep in mind. And in terms of would it be best to market the campaign for a cause or for the product, it really depends on your audience. Think about the kind of people you are targeting and what they want to see and what makes them excited. If you're targeting mainly people who are super psyched about what you're doing, super psyched about your project, then the cause would be better as a target. But if you're marketing to people who are really want the product you're making, if that's your target market, that's the type of campaign you should run. It's all a matter of thinking about who your ideal audience is and what they actually want, and then targeting it towards them.
Okay, so a good question from Eric, and he asks, if something happens in the middle of the campaign that kills the project, what should we do with the money that was donated? This is a great question, and it's definitely something that everyone should keep in mind when they launch their campaign. And the one thing that I always like to mention is you should be able, if you're choosing a flexible funding model, which is basically means that you can keep whatever money you raise regardless if you meet your goal. If you're choosing that model, you should be able to fulfill on your perks no matter what. So even if you don't hit your goal, you should still be able to fulfill on the perks that you're offering. If you can't fulfill on your perks unless you meet your goal, then you should choose the fixed funding model. And that means you meet your goal or else everyone else is refunded and you don't get any of the money. It's a very important distinction to make before you launch your campaign, because things happen. Things may happen where maybe you don't meet your goal, you don't raise the amount of money you want, some other piece of the project falls through for whatever reason, and you want to be able to keep your promise and deliver on everything that you offered. If for some reason you don't meet your goal, things fall through, you can't deliver on those, then you will be responsible for refunding all of your contributors. So it's a great question.
A question from Sean asks, what is the best way to increase your go-go factor and get your campaign seen? So this is a great question. There's basically a couple of measurements that go into the go-go factor. We can't really reveal the very details of it because it is a proprietary algorithm. We can say that the go-go factor is based on your activity in your campaign and your audience's response to it. So it's really important to stay active and really engage the funders you have to make sure that they are also being active. So you want not only yourself spreading the word, but you want them to be spreading the word, and you want to get more and more people excited about what you're doing. So if you feel like you're getting stuck, you want to be able to see okay, I have access to all these people. Is there any new audience that I can access with my campaign? Any more other people that would be interested in it, and how do I do so? So it's really, really important to think about the activity in your campaign and also just to build that initial momentum.
Yeah, and the other half of that too is their response. So you may be pushing your campaign to the whole world and making posts and comments every day, but if you're not getting the response and the contributions on the other half of it, that's also taken into effect as well. Great question. Oh, so this is a fantastic question from Ham, I believe. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. So what happens if you reach your target or your goal too early? Will people stop funding? And that's actually a very common misconception that people have. Is one of the reasons why they set their goals so high is because they feel that they need to set their goal according to the exact amount that they really hope to raise, because if they set it too low, people will simply stop funding when they meet their goal. And it's actually the opposite. So we found that the majority of campaigns, once they reach their goal, will actually overfund and people will continue to contribute. And this goes back to the psychology of crowdfunding, and that people want to be part of something successful. We actually have a campaign this morning that the Scanadu, which is a health measuring system that allows you to take your vitals and it syncs up with your iPhone. They had a goal of 100,000 and they hit it within 3 hours. And so people are still continuing to fund. I think right now they're up to $215,000 and it's growing like crazy. So that's just a fantastic example of setting a goal that they probably knew they would hit, and they wanted to just knock it out of the park. And they wanted to hit that as quickly and as early as possible, because that's an exciting story. That gets people engaged. That gets media excited. Everyone excited, like, wow, look at these guys. They hit their goal this fast, and let's see what else they can do. You can also continue to set stretch goals. So if you hit your goal early, you can say, oh my gosh, thank you guys so much for all of your help and your contributions. If we can hit this goal, it'll allow us to do this extra amount of work on our project, or it'll allow us to get these extra special features for our film, or we can produce a whole different type of prototype. So it's a great question, and again, goal setting is so key and important to your campaign, and being able to successfully meet your goal is going to add credibility to you as a campaign owner. So if you do come back and launch a second or third campaign, you can tell that story. You can say, hey, I've already run one campaign. I was successful. We delivered on our perks. Now we're doing phase 2, and people are going to be much more likely to contribute again to that phase 2. Thank you all so much for attending. Definitely check out our webinars section to see some of the recorded sessions from our other series. And thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you all on Indiegogo.com, and hopefully we'll see all of your campaigns and success in the future.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day.